Welcome to the James Show. This is News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome back to the big show. So this is an ongoing deviance between the traditional values on one side of the political spectrum and the progressive values on the other side of the political spectrum. And it's something that you kind of imagine when we were kids was universal. Everybody used to celebrate the family. The family used to be sort of the ideal situation. It used to be considered the American way. You have your husband and wife and 2.3 kids and a house with a little white picket fence, maybe a dog and a cat. But that is not necessarily universally glorified in the modern age. There's a significant part of the population for different reasons that look down upon. Now, they don't say it this way, but the patterns are quite established that they're not as enthusiastic about forming families and the traditional husband and wife, nuclear family, staying together, raising kids, having a bunch of kids. That's not necessarily seen as the ideal anymore. That's not necessarily some people's American dream. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be for everybody. It's never going to be for everybody. In a society of 300 and almost 30 million people now, of course, there's going to be some people that aren't a good fit for marriage. There's going to be some people that, some women that don't need to stay home and have kids. They need to go pursue their career. Margaret Thatcher is a good example. But, if you're not going to be one of those, just generally speaking, encouraging or discouraging these behaviors over a wide population could be the difference between your society actually sustaining itself or doing what many modern societies are doing, prosperous, wealthy, advanced first world societies are doing. They are not replacing themselves. The birth rate is so low that you're dying off. Now, you may think, well, that's just something new that's happened because in the modern age, we've come up with birth control and we've come up with abortions and we've come up with so many of these other things that they just didn't have in generations past. And that explains it. If no one had any form of birth control until about 60-something years ago, that's why they had a bazillion kids per family. But that is not true. The idea that a society would become so prosperous, dare I say complacent or even apathetic, that their birth rate would decline below the replacement rate, that's not something new. That has happened in history many times. And it's not even an anomaly for the rise and fall of empires, the rise and fall of societies, whether it's the ancient Greeks or the old Romans or the Persians or the Ottomans or so many of these patterns that you see repeating themselves. One of them is a high birth rate when you're on the ascendancy, and societies that are past their prime and on the decline, they have the lower birth rates. Their birth rates decline, and a lot of them fall below replacement rates. I mean, that they had this problem in ancient Sparta. So Elon Musk was on some stage at some forum, and he addressed it. And, he did a really good job, but I'm going to let you hear this, and then I'm going to contrast it with a recent Newsweek article. And I want you to decide which side of this debate that you're on. This is Elon first, Elon Musk.
In fact, one of the things that is overlooked by probably most historians is the role of low birth rate in the decline of civilizations. So around, I think it was around 50 BC, Rome passed a bill to give a bonus to any Roman citizen that would have a third child. So this was a birth rate was a problem in Rome in 50 BC. The Romans weren't making Romans. The same is true of ancient Greece. So there was a time from about 800 BC to 300-ish BC where the Greeks had a lot of kids. And a lot of surviving kids. Like the birth rate far exceeded the death rate, which is why you had Greek cities popping up all over the Mediterranean. But then, I think basically, it seems to be that prosperity destroys the birth rate. So when a civilization feels like it has no meaningful external threat, and is very prosperous, that is what causes the birth rate to plummet. Somewhat counterintuitively, you think, well, if you've got more resources, surely that would lead to more kids. In fact, it is the opposite. The more prosperous a civilization, and the more a civilization feels that it does not need to defend against external threats, the lower the birth rate.
So that should hit pretty close to home, because that sounds a lot like what we're doing here. And our birth rate for native-born Americans is below the replacement rate. If not for the birth rate of first-generation immigrants, we would be in that decline. But there's a lot of countries that are already in that decline further along the road than we are. We're talking about Britain, Germany, Spain, Japan. I believe South Korea is among the worst. So even if you do have a better society, even if you do get your utopian goals, and I'm talking to you progressives, if you get what you want, if you get all your universal health care and you get universal daycare and you get 8 years of paid maternity leave and you get all kinds of amenities, what good does it do you if your society collapses within a few generations because you're not replacing yourself? Doesn't do any good. You're just a parasite that's cannibalizing the wealth created by previous generations. Yikes. That's pretty ugly, right? And, you always scratch your head when you see the rise and fall of civilizations and the change in birth rate, and you see how they die off. And you ask yourself, well, ancient Greece, ancient Rome, ancient whoever, you were on the top of your game. Why did you change your policies? Why did you change your values? Why did you change your culture or your religion or, abandon your religion? That's another thing that is on the decline of civilizations as they become more plural and less religious. Why did they do that? Well, what do you mean, why did they do that? Why are we doing that? We're doing that now. Because here's Newsweek. This is the headline from Newsweek. Worrying population declines are actually a hopeful sign. Oh, is that right, Newsweek? It's fantastic that we're dying off. Human beings are dying off. That America is dying off. No, see, they love that. Because what are humans to some people? They're litter. They're a carbon footprint. They're destroying the planet. They're unnatural. And we're going to go look. We're going to take a quick break. And I want to hear from you here. 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Because we're going to go down the map here, the road map. And you're going to marvel how at every fork in the road, when it comes to the human individual decision makings that lead to, lean more toward a strong nuclear family or away from it, in every one of those intersections, the traditional values lean toward the family. The progressives, for lack of a better term, I just don't have a better term for the non-traditional. The non-traditional values lead away from the family. Newsweek, at every point in the road, is anti-family. And why aren't they called anti-family? Well, they may be after this. Stick around. This is James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Elon Musk brings up something that I wish got more attention, and that's the problem with the declining birth rate in this country. And it's not across all segments of society. The birth rate is quite different based on your political persuasion. And that's no accident. You could have probably guessed that. In fact, I could have put a microphone in front of your face before the show started, and you would have almost certainly got that answer correct. But when Elon Musk brings up the historical nature of this, that already shoots out a lot of the initial criticisms that I've heard over the years about, James, why are you concerned about the birth rate? Who cares if there's fewer kids, or we need fewer people, or there's too many people in this world, or we're destroying the world? There's a lot of ecological explanations for it. And if that's all you got, then you're not going to win this argument on the long run, because I have way too much against that. So let's do a little low birth rate talk, because what's really behind this is one of you in this discussion, and spoiler alert, it's not you, it's your political opposition, is anti-human. It's not just anti-family. It's anti-human. And these things are connected. Being anti-family is anti-human. You destroy the nuclear family, human beings are going to go away pretty quick. This is how people go extinct. This is how previous civilizations have gone extinct. This is why entire races of people and languages and cultures do not exist anymore. How many Spartans we got left? I mean, I guess technically there's people from Sparta, but not like the 300. But look at this. Let's walk with this through me, because MSNBC or ABC or the regular folks are not going to tell you this, but I will. Come down the map where you go from childhood to adulthood to nuclear family formation. And let's look at all the intersections, all the forks in the road of that map. So traditional values favor sexual modesty. You know, the ideal is no sex before marriage. And if you can live up to that ideal, you and Tim Tebow and about 4 other people, I mean, you're better than us, or me, but at least there was an attempt there. At least we push it. At least we try to limit it. On the other side of the cultural divide, what do you have? You have one of the number one songs, what was it last year? WAP. Do you know what WAP stands for, right, Garrett? WAP. The Meg the Stallion and what was that Nicki Minaj song? Or who was? Yeah, it was those two, right? Okay, so it's WAP. The first word is wet. And then A and P are things I can't say on the radio. So what amazing level of promiscuity are you people encouraging to reduce these women down to how ready their undercarriage is for that? I mean, are you serious? This is the message you're putting out to your kids? This is what you're telling your young adults? This is what you want them to consume? I mean, I know parents probably aren't necessarily playing this for their kids, but, record companies, other people, fans. I mean, did an 18-year-old college frat boy write that as a joke? Because that doesn't even sound real. But no, women wrote that for themselves. We talk about how, the right-wingers and the Trumpers are women haters and chauvinist pigs and toxic masculinity. We're not putting out songs like this. So, another fork in the road. That's one of the first ones. Do you want your kids to be a hoe, or do you want to at least attempt monogamy? Do you want to encourage monogamy? We'll ask your question. Which one is preferable for family formation? Well, they choose against the family formation there. When you're coming up and you're deciding, well, I'm going to be a kid to an adult. What's your sexual orientation going to be? Gay or straight? Well, which one is encouraged on which side of the aisle? And then which one is preferable for family formation? It's not that I don't want you to get married. I even think gay people should be able to adopt, but they're not adding any kids to the pool. You can't. We haven't figured that level of science out. But which one's preferable for family formation? Do you encourage one or the other? Which one do you encourage, and which one's better for forming families? If you get pregnant, do you keep it or not? Well, you get a very different answer based on politics in this country. Culturally speaking, it shouldn't really be that political, but culturally speaking, which one is preferable for family formation? The society that encourages you to keep it, or the society that encourages you to abort it? If you do keep it, if you don't keep it, do you encourage adoption or abortion? One side is really big in adoption. You people who go to big churches, you see it all the time. A lot of them have some sort of adoption program. They have adoption training, they have adoption help, they have adoption counselors and resources. And then you see, mixed families coming in that clearly they're not biologically related, but it's celebrated in the non-progressive community, in the traditional community. But which one is preferable for family formation? Which ones helps society sustain itself better? So if you do keep it, do you encourage marriage, or do you celebrate single motherhood? Do you come up with programs to facilitate it and encourage it and incentivize it? Do you come up with welfare programs and needs-based programs that encourage divorce, that incentivize divorce? Which one of these systems of policies, again, is preferable for family formation? And then so let's say if you do get married, do you encourage the mom to be a housewife? Do you celebrate homemakers, or do you celebrate women who go to work and have a career? And which one is preferable for family formation? I realize everybody can't afford it, but if you can afford it, what's better for the kids? What's better for the amount of kids that you would be willing, that you could comfortably have? Which one is better for society to sustain its population? And which one do they choose? If you do get married and you do have kids, do you have 1 or 2 kids, or do you encourage, what we call being fruitful and multiply, one of the commands from Genesis? Which one is preferable for family formation? I got 4 kids. What you got? When it comes to the treatments for the kids and they're confused about their gender, are you okay with treating your kids in a way that would make them sterile for the rest of their life? Which one is preferable for family formation? And another one, and look, a lot of these are cultural too. When it comes to making TV shows, I started with the song, but this applies to TV shows. Do you show healthy, functioning families with competent fathers, or are they almost all buffoons? It wasn't always like that. In the Brady Bunch, the father was not a buffoon. He was not a Pete Griffin. He was not trying to think of his name from Married with Children, because he's just my favorite. Al Bundy, thank you. But yeah, which one is preferable for family formation? Alan Thicke in Growing Pains wasn't a buffoon. But now, for the last, 15, 20 years, I cannot find a sitcom that has just a regular old nuclear family, straight white Christian male and some wife that he's been with. They have biological kids, and he's not a buffoon. There's only one, and actually it's Last Man Standing. And that's kind of the exception that proves the rule, because the whole gimmick of that show is, hey, we got an idea for a show. Well, what's different about this one? The father's not the buffoon. Oh, that's wild. Let's make that one. But really, at every step of the way, which one is preferable for family formation? And here's another weird one too, the last one. When you look at the music, which one has songs about the importance of fatherhood or a father's love or how great it is getting married and having kids? Because I'm a huge hip hop fan. I cannot name one hip hop song about a father's love. I can think of like Stuntin' Like My Daddy, but Lil Wayne was singing about Birdman, and that's not his dad. And I can't really think a whole lot in the rock music genre either, but it is all over country. They're always talking about daddy's love, or let me tell you a secret about a father's love, or daddy's hands, or there's all kinds of songs about getting married and having kids and raising them, and All American Girl and There Goes My Life. It's that, and it goes for everything, every issue, even things that don't feel like they're attached to the family. When it comes to global warming, all of these are anti-family. Reduce your carbon footprint, take public transportation, live in a tiny house, drive a tiny car. Which one of all of these is preferable, encourages robust, big family formation, and which one encourages it to be as small and minuscule as possible? Everything, even the rainforest. Would you rather cut down some trees and grow some crops for starving humans in Brazil? Or would you rather there be another acre of trees there? Well, here's the answer. Follows the pattern. Which one is preferable for family formation? Not a coincidence. That's way too much. One side, whether they mean to be or not, is anti-family. 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. This is The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome to the big show. Do you have any solutions to the low birth rate in America? The native-born population is not replacing themselves. Elon Musk did a great job putting some context on it, saying this isn't some new novelty of modern society. This is the normal course of action for societies and empires when they're in decline. So now that we've recognized that, what can we do to stop it? And someone on Instagram sent me a little instant message. They're like, well, what do we do about the declining birth rate? I said, well, I was trying to be subtle about it, but number one thing you can do, I mean, I got some suggestions. If we're having too few people, you know how babies are made, right? I mean, look, isn't that a positive spin on it? Oh, we got a solution. What do we do? I mean, that's great. We actually have a solution. I mean, a problem where sex is a solution, because for so many times in your life, sex is the problem, right? If you're a lonely guy in your 20s and you're trying to figure out what to do that weekend, or what do husbands and wives fight about, or, you know, there's so many other things where it's called the breakup of marriages, or the Helen of Troy, or so many times sex has been a hindrance. But in this one, this is the solution to the problem. But it's not just sex, obviously. It's actually a lot more positive than that. Get married, fall in love, find your soulmate, build a life together, live together, have kids together, raise them together. Show your kids what a healthy, loving relationship looks like, and be the example for them so they can do the same in their adulthood. You get accused of being a hate-filled bigot. I mean, how many times do you hear this? The Republicans were running on hate, or the other side is just full of hate, or these people, they're just fueled by hate and anger and bigotry. Bigotry, really? I'm telling you to fall in love. I'm telling you to find your soulmate. I'm telling you to not treat women like a pincushion. I'm telling you to treat them with respect. Treat yourself with some respect. Fall in love is a hateful position. Start a family. Maintain a family. Maintain a loving environment for the rearing of children. That's a hateful position? I don't think so. I think that sounds kind of nice. I think that sounds more positive than negative. Thank you very much. And I think it's not anti-feminist. Stop treating women like just some sort of donation device. And there's other things that we could do, like the libertarian in me kind of, I lean toward free market capitalism and making a profit. And I don't think profit's a bad word. And, is there something financially that we could do to incentivize it? Because I've noticed whenever you add more money to the idea that single mothers can get a bigger check if they keep having kids, that incentivizes kids. That incentivizes more of a birth rate. That's actually... by some studies, has actually had an effect, a positive effect, depending on how you look at it. I think it's positive. But there's a bill in Massachusetts that would allow mothers to sell their own newborns to the highest bidder. Now, the people, the progressives who hate families and want to discourage family creation at this point, they're like, I thought slavery was abolished. This isn't slavery. You ding dong. You're not selling your kid and then they're going to go make them plant crops and work for free for the rest of their life. They're buying custody. And so you're not going to own them any more than you own any other kid. So I have my antennas up when the knee-jerk criticism of this doesn't hold water. When the knee-jerk criticism of this from the people who are anti-family in every other fork in the road, when they don't like this might be a good idea. Because that's what I feel like. That's sort of the capitalist approach to abortion. You want fewer abortions? Well, have a financial incentive to carry that thing full term. How many fewer women would get an abortion if at the end, if they carried this thing for just 6 more months? Maybe they took them a couple months to find out. Maybe if they carry for 7 more months, they get $25,000. You wouldn't have to outlaw abortion. It would basically go away. And you may say, well, Parker, then you'd be having women who be getting pregnant just so they could put it up for adoption. Well, if the market's there, is that such a bad thing? I think it's awful. It is absolutely awful for a family that wants to adopt a baby that can't get a baby. I think it's awful that people who think like me when it comes to making families, if they just physically can't, I can't imagine what a disappointment that is. And I want to grease the tracks on them to get into the family situation as easily as possible. And if you have to buy your way in, fine. Maybe we'll start a charity and we'll start funding these ladies to not have an abortion by promising them, hey, $30,000. And until we have people who want to adopt and they all have a kid and we've run out of people who are looking for a kid, then maybe we should remove that incentive. But as long as there's a market for it, think of how many more kids we would have. We may be above the replacement rate. Because here's another scary statistic. Someone said this to me when they called into my show 10 years ago. I didn't believe them. I researched it and I had to come back on the air after the commercial break and apologize for being wrong. Someone told me 10 years ago that in New York City, more black children were aborted than born last year. And that was the case when I looked it up, and I think it was 2013 or something. But if that's still the case, maybe we can turn that around. It's a pro-baby policy. Isn't that bizarre? But I don't know. Have we tried this before? I am very interested to see. And I usually don't agree with new Massachusetts bills. They're not really a stalwart of free market capitalism or sort of right-wing cultural issues, but it seems like they're embracing both in this one. Do you think mothers should be able to sell their newborns, or at least the custody to them? They're not selling them to them like property, but selling the custody to their newborns to the highest bidder. I say yes. 800-288-WBAP. 800-288-9227. This is The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.